All right, ladies, gentlemen, I'm filming this because there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to be in class, and I kind of want you to have me as a reference in terms of what we're doing today. So today you're going to begin your outlines, okay? We've done this before, we've outlined before. In terms of your outline, I'm going to give you today to work on your outline. If you finish your outline, I want you to go ahead and begin typing your paper. You will have an additional class day to type your paper, but only one day, okay? So if you finish your outline, go ahead and move on to typing your paper. With regards to your outline, okay, as we stated before, I know I have some new students, so I just kind of want to go back to the basics and sort of give you a quick review. When it comes to your outline, the first thing we begin with, before you do your outline, before you type a paper, you have to establish your thesis statement, right? Your opinion on the topic. Your opinion plus topic equals thesis statement. Also, I'm always looking for 3 reasons. So let's come up with our 3 reasons. I'm going to give you a sample. You don't have to use these 3 reasons. It's just, something for you to sort of pull from, okay? So first off, the question plaguing us today is whether or not transgender individuals should be allowed to use the restroom with which they identify. That means if you're a transgender woman, should you be allowed to go to the women's restroom and vice versa, okay? So I'm going to first take the side of transgender individuals being allowed to use whatever restroom they choose, okay? Or being able to use the restroom with which they identify, okay? So let's start off with our first 3 reasons, okay? My first 3 reasons would be, how about reason number 1 being, the fears are unwarranted. Fears are unwarranted. Now what that means is, if you remember the articles we read, there were a lot of people that said they were afraid that if transgenders are allowed to use the restroom with which they identify, there will be this increase or uptick in sexual assaults. What's to prevent a guy who looks like me from going into the restroom? Men will dress up as women in an effort to rape or sexually assault people, okay? And so my first reason is going to be that those fears are unwarranted. Number 2, it's unsafe. What do I mean by unsafe? If you recall, in the article, they gave us some data and some information. If you're interested in taking this side, they gave us some data and some information that essentially said that it kind of talked about what transgender individuals experience when forced to go into the restroom based upon their sex. So it's unsafe. Reason number 3. We don't actually need different bathrooms, okay? One of the arguments that was made was that, you could potentially have a unisex bathroom. The last article that we had, which we didn't read together, but you're required to go through on your own, gives some information on that stance. And so now I've given you 3 sort of hypothetical reasons why, if I were someone on the side of transgenders being allowed to use the restroom with which they identify, reasons that I could use to back that up. So fears are unwarranted. It's unsafe. We don't actually need different bathrooms. And so if I were going to write my thesis statement, and I haven't thought about this, but we'll just jot it out really quickly, okay? And we'll use these 3 reasons. Remember, your opinion plus your topic, because reason 1, comma, reason 2, comma, and reason 3, period. So I'm gonna write it over here, kind of running out of space. I may need to erase this, okay? Let's just do that. I'll erase this. Okay, so we'd start by saying, again, this is our thesis. This is my example of a thesis, right? Transgender individuals should be permitted. That means allowed, right? use the restroom with which they identify, and you can put this in your own words, just so I'm writing it, with which they identify because. Now, I've expressed my opinion on the topic, right? They should be able to use the restroom, my opinion on the topic of transgenders. Now I'm going to add my 3 reasons, okay? We'll go back to our first reason, which was fears are unwarranted. The transgender individuals should be permitted to use the restroom with which they identify because the fears are unwarranted. Comma. Okay? Our second reason, it's unsafe. It's unsafe, comma. So reason 1, comma, reason 2, comma, and reason 3, period. Reason 3 was we don't actually need separate bathrooms or different bathrooms. Maybe I'll put 2 bathrooms. We don't actually need different bathrooms. Okay? So, opinion on topic, reason 1, comma, reason 2, comma, and reason 3. So, fears are unwarranted, reason 1, it's unsafe, reason 2, and we don't actually need different bathrooms, reason 3. Okay? Now, you don't have to go this way. I could just as easily write one up for the other side, right? Okay? In fact, I think the other side's reasons, I'll rattle off the few that I had here. I won't actually write it, but off the top of my head, I had a few reasons. So, protects people's privacy if you're going on the other side, that they should have used the restroom based upon their sex, right? It protects people's privacy. There's an increased risk of sexual assault. And the benefits, it benefits the few as opposed to the benefits of the many. Again, you don't have to use these reasons. I'm just kind of pointing you in a direction to kind of get you thinking that way. When you use these reasons, there will be things in there that support whichever side you stand on. Okay? All right, so back to this. So we have our thesis statement. When you write your paper, this should be the statement that appears at the end of your intro paragraph. Okay? So, thesis statement, it's there. I'm going to erase it because I need the board. You will have done this. You will have typed this down and had your thesis statement somewhere. Okay? So, let me go ahead and erase this. Okay, and then this should go relatively quickly, right? We remember the outline setup. I've given you a document that has you fill in. It's basically just plug and chug. Don't write anything else that you would put in your paper. Only fill in the elements that are there. So it's going to ask you for an attention getter. It's going to ask you for a thesis. It's going to ask you for a subclaim for each body paragraph, which is basically the first sentence of that paragraph. It's going to ask you for a piece of evidence and a warrant. Okay? So we'll talk about what those things are. I'm going to jot on the board what that looks like, roughly. Okay? So, our first paragraph, Mark is kind of running out, is going to be our intro, right? Right? Intro paragraph. Intro paragraph is going to have in it our attention getter. For those of you that don't recall, the attention getter is, something interesting to hook the reader. A line at the beginning could be an interesting fact, could be a thought-provoking question. Okay, that's up to you to come up with. Come up with an attention getter, plug and chug, put it in your outline. Okay. Then it asks you for a thesis, right? A thesis or a claim. As always, I use these terms interchangeably. Okay. Same thing, thesis or claim. And then you're going to fill in your thesis or claim. We just came up with a thesis, so the thesis that we came up with or that you construct, more so, plug that in there. All right? Then it's going to say body paragraph 1. It's a little sloppy, but you get my point. body paragraph 1, right? Under body paragraph 1, it's going to ask you for subclaim, which again, is just the first sentence. So if our body paragraph 1 is going to be all about our first reason, right? Reason 1. And in our thesis, we said fears are unwarranted, I believe was our first reason, right? So this is going to be all about how the fears are unwarranted if that's what you chose. So our subclaim may be something like, something as simple as, hey, people's fears about increased levels of sexual assault with regard to transgenders using the bathroom with which they choose, with which they identify, are unwarranted, right? It's just a sentence that details what that particular paragraph is about, right? So you open with that sentence, and then you're going to have some evidence, right? And by evidence, I mean a quote, right? Word for word from one of the articles that I gave you. Do not research elsewhere, from one of the articles that I gave you, okay? So give me a quote, whatever you say here. If you tell me that the fears are unwarranted, now you got to find me a quote to back that up, okay? Put that quote in there, okay? And then afterwards, you need to give me a warrant, okay? People who are new to the class or people who just don't remember, if you remember, warrant is, what does your evidence mean? Explain your evidence, right? You may start off, you may say something like, this shows, right? ... or this proves, or this means, right? What does this quote mean? And then that'll be it in terms of your outline, okay? So fill in those 3 things. Then you're going to do the same thing for body paragraph 2 and body paragraph 3. I'm not going to write it all down, but again, you'll have subclaim. I guess I am going to write it all down. Subclaim, evidence, warrant, subclaim, evidence, warrant, right? And then you're going to have a conclusion paragraph, right? And in your conclusion paragraph, you're going to give me your final thoughts. You're going to restate your thesis statement, but you're going to reword it. You're not going to say it exactly the same way, right? But you're going to drive home the points you were trying to make in your original thesis and or claim. So, restate / reword thesis. Right? Final thoughts, final arguments, right? Final thoughts. Right? Okay? And that's how you set up the outline. Nothing too complicated. It's plug and chug. Just put everything in there. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do, for those of you who are probably going to finish this and dive right into your paper, okay, is that's how you do the outline. So let's just stop there for a moment. That's the outline. The outline should have nothing else in it other than these things, okay? Now what I'm going to show you is we're going to move on to the paper, right? Again, this is 5 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, right? An intro paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, okay? Now, if you do your outline well, and you don't try to cut corners, when it comes time to type your paper, you will only have to add a few sentences to what's already there, and it'll make your life easier. So don't try to like skim through the outline. Take your time and make sure you do it correctly. So the difference between the paper and the outline is simply this. This is the outline. You have all of this crap. When you go to write your paper, all you're going to do is, in your intro paragraph, you're going to have your attention getter. You're going to have some, what I like to call filler sentences, right, in between. And maybe in these sentences, you're talking about the issue, right? The debate over whether transgenders should be allowed to use the bathroom with which they choose has been raging since 2016. I don't know, right? Whatever you want to say about it. Many people believe blah, 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 blah. Others believe blah, 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 right? Whatever you'd like to say about it, these are your filler sentences. And then you'll finish with your thesis or your claim. That's your first paragraph, okay? for your body paragraphs, you will already have the 3 main sentences. Just give me a sentence or 2 to close, right? Some additional thoughts, maybe some additional commentary on how you feel about it, okay? And that's it. And if you do that, right, and what I'm giving you is the minimums, right? I should have at least 4 sentences in each body paragraph, right? Anything less than 4 sentences, probably going to get hit on points, okay? So at least 4 sentences in your body paragraphs, and then you go into your conclusion, right? Pretty straightforward. I hope this makes sense. If not, as always, you can email me, but I think I've been pretty thorough. So that's the outline and the paper. Also, when you use something, and we talked about this, we talked about giving credit to where you get information. Again, all your information should come from the 4 articles I gave you. This is not, we're not researching, you're not looking somewhere else. Don't look up any websites trying to find things to back up what you want to say. I will ding you for that. When you want to give credit to an author, right, remember, where something came from, look at the article. If it has an author's, what you're going to do is when you use the quote, right, let's say you have the quote, right, quote says, whatever it says, blah, 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 blah. Hold that thought. Get a different marker. All right. So quote says, right, blah, 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 right? Technically, it'd probably be like this, blah, blah, blah. Right? Whatever the quote says, okay? You're going to, in parentheses, afterwards, you're going to tell me the author's last name, right? In this case, we'll pretend like it's me, Henderson. Then you're going to close the parenthesis, and punctuation goes here on the outside, okay? That's it. That's it. They're all internet articles, so you don't need to worry about page numbers, okay? If there's no author listed, you're going to use the title of the article, okay? So again, it'd look like this, right? Blah, blah, blah. Right? And then you're going to say, I don't know what the title of the article is. The best thing about whatever, right? So article title, the best thing. If it's a long title, you can use an ellipsis, right? You can just say the best, dot, 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 right? Punctuation goes on the outside, right? Okay? There we go. The outside, right? The best. Okay? So either the author's last name or the article title if there is no author, okay? The other way to do this, and some of you like to do this, is you could say, in the article, blah, 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 such and such states, like the author. Or the author says, or such and such says, blah, blah, blah. If you do it that way, then you don't need to do this, okay? But you want to probably mix these 2 things up. If you do it that way all the time, it's going to get kind of redundant and boring, okay? Any questions about what I mean on here, email me if I'm not here, or ask me if I am here, okay? So that's the long and short of it, man. Like I said, I may be out, and I just want to make sure that things go as smoothly for you as possible. All right? Good? Cool.